Good evening and welcome to Hot News. We are live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. We're also live on YouTube at Pan-African Television, as well as some 48 African countries. You can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments and contributions on our WhatsApp/text line displayed on the screen. We'll make a time and read those messages for you. You can as well leave your suggestions, questions and whatnot on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram and on Twitter at Pan-African Television. I would as well read those messages for you. My name is Justice Appiah. Those of you watching us on Facebook can share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. But the debate on the e-levy is still ongoing. You know that some church leaders met former President John Dramani Mahama. That was 3 days ago in order to persuade him to get the minority side in Parliament to approve the controversial e-levy. Former President John Dramani Mahama has responded to them. Yesterday we started, the conversation on that. Today we are bringing you the second part of that conversation. The e-levy is still hanging. Today, no show in Parliament over the e-levy. We don't know when that is going to be, tabled out for discussion and probably approval or rejection on it. We are still waiting. Our figures are crossed. Government is, of course, touring all the, capital cities or all the regions in order to sensitize Ghanaians on that, to educate Ghanaians on the need for the e-levy and all of that. But our interest is in the church leaders. People are chastising, people are accusing, people are dragging the church leaders into the mud. They are of the view that several things have happened in this country and they were mute, they were quiet, they never talked. Why is it that this time around they have found their voices and would have to go to the former president in order to persuade him to get the minority in Parliament to approve the e-levy? People are of the view that the church is becoming hypocritical. But former President John Dramani Mahama, in his response to them, has told them that, well, he is happy that the brawl that ensued in Parliament has woken their consciences. Now let's listen to the former president's response to the church leaders. We'll be right back.
In this
come and let's dialogue. But you go and set your 1.75% and then you bring it and say
levy, e-levy. This follows an action by the first Deputy Speaker, which the National Democratic Congress (NDC) MPs described as unconstitutional and contrary to the standing orders of the House. The minority resisted Joseph Osei Owusu's attempt to vote whilst presiding over the parliamentary proceedings. In view of this, former President John Dramani Mahama, at a meeting with a delegation from the leadership of the various church groups and associations in his office, said the resistance of the minority group, which led to the brawl, was a fight for democracy. He told the Christian leaders that Ghanaians have made it clear that they do not want the e-levy. Hence, the minority group's pushback is a reflection of what the people want. Former President John Dramani Mahama further indicated the importance of the Fourth Republic and urged everyone to get involved in its protection. He questioned government on why it did not dialogue with the minority in Parliament before the introduction of the e-levy. Mr. Mahama likened the recent attempt by government to dialogue with minority after several rejections to traders negotiating at Makola. To him, the e-levy is a symptom of economic mismanagement by the Akufo-Addo-led government over the past 4 years.
You get a detail of, what our concerns are, you will understand the viewpoint from which we are coming. But I do think that this meeting is timely, and it's good to hear from all sides. And I'm sure that by the time you have heard what we have to say, you realize that the problem is much deeper than you think. And that's why I brought some of them from which we are coming. But I do think that this meeting is timely, and it's good to hear from all sides. And I'm sure that by the time you have heard what we have to say, you realize that the problem is much deeper than you think. And that's why I brought some of the MPs here. That fight was a fight for democracy. There's no way a speaker can sit in the chair, relinquish the chair, let somebody else come and sit in it, and take a vote in something that he has presided over. The Constitution is clear. You take a voice vote, ayes or nays. If somebody challenges it, it means that we don't agree with your choice. So you, the speaker, must sit in the chair and do a division. And then you say, I've done the division, the accounting, I'm now going to get out of the chair and let the second deputy speaker who has voted come and sit in so that I can also go and vote. I mean, our Constitution doesn't allow that. And it was felt that our MPs should sit timidly and let them pass this unconstitutionality. It won't happen. And so, yes, I'm happy that that rowdy scene has woken your consciences that you must intervene, because there's a lot that is happening in this country that if we don't intervene, it would upset our democracy. The Fourth Republic has been the most enduring, and we must protect it. And all of us must stand up and protect it. Dialogue is not just the only issue. Dialogue comes from the ruling party. We are in opposition. We have nothing. If the ruling party says come and dialogue, of course we'll come and we'll sit and dialogue. If you're bringing something like e-levy, why was there no dialogue before you introduce it in Parliament? It's only after you introduce it and there's a pushback, then you say come and let's dialogue. But you go and set your 1.75% and then you bring it and say, because there's a pushback, the country is pushing back, the minority is pushing back, then you say, okay, let's dialogue. Okay, I'll give you 1.5. It's like we are negotiating in Makola. E-levy is not the problem. E-levy is a symptom of what has gone on for the last 4 years. I mean, government feels that it can ride roughshod over everybody, take its own decisions, bring anything into Parliament, do whatever it likes, pass any, decisions that it wants without dialoguing. After all, we're 169. And so the current 137 is a withdrawal symptom. And so government has to climb down from its high horse and realize that the people of Ghana have been tired of that tyrannical, dictatorial majority rule that they have carried out. Without consensus building, without dialogue, even if you're 169, it still helps to get consensus. You will understand the viewpoint from which we are coming. But I do think that this meeting is timely, and it's good to hear from all sides. And I'm sure that by the time you have heard what we have to say, you realize that the problem is much deeper than you think. And that's why I brought some of the MPs here. That fight was a fight for democracy. There's no way a speaker can sit in the chair, relinquish the chair, let somebody else come and sit in it, and take a vote in something that he has presided over. The Constitution is clear. You take a voice vote, ayes or nays. If somebody challenges it, it means that we don't agree with your choice. So you, the speaker, must sit in the chair and do a division. And then you say, I've done the division, the accounting, I'm now going to get out of the chair and let the second deputy speaker who has voted come and sit in so that I can also go and vote. I mean, our Constitution doesn't allow that. And it was felt that our MPs should sit timidly and let them pass this unconstitutionality. It won't happen. And so, yes, I'm happy that that rowdy scene has woken your consciences that you must intervene, because there's a lot that is happening in this country that if we don't intervene, it would upset our democracy. The Fourth Republic has been the most enduring, and we must protect it. And all of us must stand up and protect it. Dialogue is not just the only issue. Dialogue comes from the ruling party. We are in opposition. We have nothing. If the ruling party says come and dialogue, of course we'll come and we'll sit and dialogue. If you're bringing something like e-levy, why was there no dialogue before you introduce it in Parliament? It's only after you introduce it and there's a pushback, then you say come and let's dialogue. But you go and set your 1.75% and then you bring it and say, because there's a pushback, the country is pushing back, the minority is pushing back, then you say, okay, let's dialogue. Okay, I'll give you 1.5. It's like we are negotiating in Makola. E-levy is not the problem. E-levy is a symptom of what has gone on for the last 4 years. I mean, government feels that it can ride roughshod over everybody, take its own decisions, bring anything into parliament, do whatever it likes, pass any, decisions that it wants without dialoguing. After all, we're 169. And so the current 137 is a withdrawal symptom. And so government has to climb down from its high horse and realize that the people of Ghana have been tired of that tyrannical, dictatorial majority rule that they have carried out. Without consensus building, without dialogue, even if you're 169, it still helps to get consensus.
Welcome back from that break. That was former President John Dramani Mahama. You've listened to him. I mean, he sought to express his view on issues happening within the current dispensation, and he likened the Akufo-Addo's government's negotiation with the minority to, Makola traders negotiating. That was, a harsh one and all of that. Also, he talked about the fact that the brawl that ensued in Parliament, he's happy that has, woken the consciences of the Christian leaders or the church leaders. I told you earlier that some Ghanaians are unhappy with how the church leaders have been extremely quiet on issues that have happened in this country, from the Ayawaso West Wuogon violence to the Tichiman election violence, and other issues that are happening. You know that we are facing economic challenges. The government has even accepted that, yes, there are challenges and all of that. They have been very quiet. Previously, we had some church leaders who came out to question where the sensible people were at the time. But where is that man? Is he still, alive? Is he still in this country? A lot of Ghanaians are asking of him. Well, I've been joined in the studio by Elikem Kotoko, member of the National Democratic Congress Communications Team. Elikem, good evening.
Good evening, Justice.
Also in the studio is Mr. Solomon Owusu, another brother and a friend just like Elikem. It's also good evening. How are you doing?
Justice, it's good.
I was watching you on Alaji on Saturday. Though I was in class.
Oh!
You did extremely well.
Oh, thank you.
For you to be in the midst of the giants, then it means that you are strong. Very well. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Now, I'll start with you, Elikem, on the issue of the church leaders visiting former President John Dramani Mahama. You've watched the video, you've listened to the responses provided by the former president. Your take on that?
Yeah, Justice. Good evening to you, my brother Solomon,
yeah,
and to our viewers. I would want to say good evening to one Don Volta, who's also watching us right from the UK.
Right.
Justice, I don't know if you're aware, I woke up today to news of the price of fuel going up.
Oh yes, it has been increased actually.
A staggering 7.99.
Yes,
if you add Dr. Baomia's name to it, it is equal to 8 cities now.
I see.
And that is very surprising, very disappointing at the same time too. And this is the untold hardship being visited on Ghanaians. And it is not only Ghanaians, they themselves are also witnessing it. Their front is even divided on these matters because they know that, as my brother would say, he would even say maybe Alan will be a better person than Baomia, who has been a lecturer and all the noise and all that. But straight to talk about the Christian groups that visited President John Mahama, I will not shy away from the fact that their hypocrisy has been very legendary, and they are a disappointment to their various congregations. And I'm happy that President Mahama did not mince words in actually letting them know as an elder statesman that I was happy that the happenings have now awakened their conscience. Yes. And I was surprised. One who asked what ensued there and why they went there. Reason being that these men of God, or these men dressed who wear cassocks, believe that the NDC rather was dragging Ghana backwards, and the NDC or the minority ought to understand and come to a consensus with the government. I have always said and here that we do not need our parliamentarians to arrive at any consensus. That is where compromises come in. And I'm repeating that again today. We don't need a single consensus. All we need is for everybody to be on the side of fairness and objectivity. Then consensus will build by itself. And if you look at this, for instance, the only consensus that can be arrived at will be when we all agree that there should be a 0% e-levy. So there cannot be any such. And you see, the reason... Are you convinced by that e-levy? A government that has borrowed more than 220 billion has got almost nothing to show for it is telling you and I that now that 6 billion is a magic wand to turn things around? They just want to have access to that, be given approval. Look, let Ghanaians listen to this. They want to get the 6. You see, you've been given this. You've been given this tablet, this huge thing.
Yeah.
You couldn't do anything with it.
I see.
Then you are now telling us that please give us this, and it will solve all the problems and do ×5 of what you gave us in the past. It doesn't make sense at all, not even to the KG people. The point is that they just want to get approval for that, so they can now further go and collateralize, just like they have collateralized everything. You talk about get fund, what have you. So they can now go into the market there and say, you know what? Okay, we now have gotten approval from our people. We can generate 6 billion annually, and therefore, please give us 60 billion, and we can pay it in a matter of 5 years because this is going to be the payment plan. Even this alone will generate. Look, there's a lot of hell going on in this country as we speak at the moment. What is there? So when I heard that the Christian groups went there, two of the questions that came to mind was this. Number one, will these hypocrites be bold enough to tell their congregations?
Who are those you are referring to?
The Christian groups, the very Christian groups.
What makes them hypocritical?
A lot of things happen in this country and they were as mute. They were very mute. The most recent of which has been the constant harassment of media men and the seemingly backdoor revisitation of the criminal libel law, the free speech that is now being suppressed, amongst other things. They went very mute.
I see.
They went very mute. That is the true definition of hypocrites, and we must call them out because their own congregation are not even happy with most of them. Their own congregation are not even happy with them. What I was saying is that if they truly believe that this is the only way through which Ghana can prosper, why have they not been bold enough to call President Nana Addo and tell him that, look, the decision by your family member to call for the cessation of the road toll collection, which was going to generate 72 million annually, that alone must be reversed immediately. But they have sat on looking on whilst those decisions were taken.
But when they went to President Mahama,
yes,
they indicated that they had met the president, they met the finance minister, they met the majority side in parliament as well as the minority side, even before going to former President.
You know what, Justice, let me be very frank with you. Let them spare us that rot. In what capacity are they even doing this? We don't even need them. That is just the truth. We don't need the church leaders. Look.
They are stakeholders in this.
Yes, they are stakeholders. But in what capacity are they doing this? What strength do they have? Are their congregations aware of these things they are doing? Are their congregations aware that they are supporting the e-levy? Or they have just taken it upon themselves? Or maybe somebody has just given them some brown envelope for them to champion this as people who don the cassock, who are wearing white, calling the name of God, and therefore they will be revered. We have come off that time. These people looked on, and the price of petrol today is what? 7.99 liters. They've looked on the price. What is the dollar to the cedi? The rot has gone on for the longest time. Were they bold enough to call the president to order when he was hounding even the Doma level? What did they say to him? This was somebody who was fighting corruption. So all the numerous corruption scandals that went on in this country, where were they? They were very mute. We are also members of their churches, and we are telling them that as members, they should stop representing us over there. They should stop it. They should just sit at their homes. We believe in the minority and the majority to arrive at a good decision in the interest of Ghanaians. Not them going around to seek favors and for them to be known and seen as
all attempts to arrive at a decision with regards to the e-levy has proven futile, which is why the church leaders had to come in as
all has not failed, Justice. All has not failed. It is to tell you that the decision will be arrived at. And that decision is when eventually we all arrive at the fact that it is going to be zero and nothing else. So nobody can say that a decision has not been arrived at. The process is still ongoing. If there was no other means through which this could be talked about, then one could say that, okay, where we've gotten to, there's a stalemate. But it isn't the case. As I speak with you, can they be bold enough to say that the tithes that is being paid to them by the congregation, a certain percentage should also go to government? So hey, it is still the same God we are all working for. They do not send that money to God anywhere. They spend it on planet Earth here in this country. Can they agree that let a percentage of that go to government to build this country? Secondly, will they agree that they, the churches, especially the ones who have delegated themselves as leaders of those very groupings to go and meet President Mahama, will they be bold enough to tell their congregation that we want the church to start paying tax so that we can help develop the country?
But you cannot advance that argument because churches engage in corporate social responsibilities. They build schools, they have
and
built,
the companies that pay tax,
and
the companies that pay tax do not engage in corporate social responsibilities. Why were they not even bold enough to tell the president, look, if you look at the tax exemptions that you are given, that is a lot of loophole in itself that we must be able to seal. You are giving tax exemptions to your family members. Now, if you want me to go through some of these for you, look at where the public debt is going. It is always on the rise.
Okay.
Government programs, NAPCO trainees have not been paid for 5 months. Youth in afforestation have not been paid for 4 months. LEAP has not been paid since September. And that is 2 cycles we are talking about. Now, when you talk about roads, 8 billion debts. That is there. We have a debt of 8 billion. And the road minister had the effrontery to say that he was calling for the cessation of collection of road tolls and wants to turn road tolls into urinals. Yesterday, I read again that another option will be to turn them into very fine police posts. That will be another disaster. It is telling you that our road minister has not put on his thinking cap up till date. And that is most unfortunate. Look, if you look at only 75 million in road fund and the toll that has been suspended, how is that helping us? I can go on and on. Charles is calling for food and desk. Buffer stock is owed over 300 million. School feeding caterers have not been paid for third month. SITAG arrears since 2017 to 2020. 60% of fertilizer suppliers have not been paid. NHIA is in arrears of 10 months. GMA members in arrears. Then strikes are here and there. Other statutory obligations that we have actually failed and all that. Look,
isn't that a moral where we need the e-levy to show up the revenue?
You think the e-levy can even resolve these problems? The mismanagement by an incompetent...
But government has not said that e-levy is coming to solve all problems.
Then you have not heard them.
What government is saying is that we need the e-levy to show up the revenue of this country.
Show up which revenue? Show up which revenue? Justice. You see, government ought to see that there's a need for it to actually begin to cut on its expenditure.
I see.
You remember the last time I was here, I told you that the finance minister did mention that 20%, they are considering 20% cuts across board. That was very vague, very empty. Because when you look at the various cost sectors, there was nowhere that was possible for them to even try to touch 5% cut in those expenditures.
Right.
So it was just not possible. I was so disappointed and very surprised that these groupings or these church elders or church leaders devoted unto themselves or elected themselves to actually embark on this suicide mission, which has actually fallen flat before the conscience of their own congregation. Because, look, let us be factual. E-levy does not make sense. It never made sense yesterday. It doesn't make sense today. It will never make sense tomorrow. I have worked. I have been deducted of my tax obligations. Then I have decided to put that money in my wallet. And you are saying that you want to tax me for putting that money in my wallet and expending it. Who does that? Nobody. Nobody. So if it doesn't make sense to you, well, let us see. Some of their own members of parliament who claim they are for it, let them allow that, okay, let's pilot it in my constituency. It will be good. Let us see how it will go. Have you seen even the panic withdrawals and how even the e-transactions have immediately dropped? Because look, it tells you it is not even sustainable for you to put your eye there expecting that this is how much we'll get there. Even if, for instance, it is passed immediately, it tells you and I that the 6 billion has already been shot in the foot and you may be looking at maybe 4 billion or even 3 billion.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
I'll come back to you. Viewers, you are still watching Hot News right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah. Please share the Facebook Live. Those of you watching us on Facebook, I'll plead with you to share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. Please share for other people to also watch. Now, let me come to you, Mr. Osu. Former President John Dramani Mahama has responded to the church leaders who visited him. Well, they went there in order to deliberate on the current state of the economy and things, that of course are happening, including the e-levy before Parliament. And the former president, I'm sure you've listened to him. Your reactions to his response to, of course, the church leaders.
Thank you very much. Yes, and good evening to Elikem and your cherished viewers. Listening to the former president, I was so happy as a New Patriotic Party member.
I see.
Because there are so many political gaps that happened during the speech, during the visit. And my brother has re-echoed that position. And if the NDC is going to toe that line, I'm not sure it will end well for them.
I see.
If you call these pastors hypocrites, people who are not needed to do anything, then you are misfiring. Why am I saying that? If you have a country where you have a Christian population of more than 70%,
right?
These people who are the pastors are the people that the congregations or the congregants looks up to. And so when things are not going right in a country or in a society, they owe a duty to their church members to also try and bring sanity into the system. That is all they sought to do. I'm not too sure ever since the NPP came to power, we have not had any bashing from the Christendom. I remember the Catholic Bishop Conference gave it to the NPP very well. That times were very hard and that Nanado should sit up. I remember Bishop Name. Now, the e-levy is not a bad thing. And if you remember recently, the Catholic Bishop has issued a statement. I heard their conference chairperson, Name, saying it's a good thing and that their worry is that where we are starting from, that's the 1.75, they feel it should start from 1%. Re-echoing the position, the original position of Haruna Idrisu, when he said he felt 1% was good. So in effect, the majority of people in this country, I mean, if the pastors are representing the majority of population in the country, are agreeing that indeed it is good and that we should start from 1%, then what is the NDC talking about? When it suits the NDC, they agree with the Christians.
But also they have issues raised on the attitude of these church leaders. People are saying that I also West Wugon. They were mute. They were very quiet on that issue. They didn't talk. People are also saying that, well, we had 2020 election. A lot of people have actually died, about 8 people or so. We all witnessed what happened at Techiman South. These people are in this country and they've never spoken. Just recent arrests and all of that of journalists and other civil society organization leaders and all of that. We've seen that they are very mute. They've been very quiet on these issues, in the country. Economic hardship. I mean, Professor Mate, who at the time was asking of where the sensible people were. All these people are very quiet. People are beginning to think that when it has to do with the NDC, these people would quickly just step in, and in this case, they think that the minority in parliament is trying to frustrate government business, and so let's see or look at how we can step in to make sure that these people allow this e-levy of a thing to be approved, especially when their congregants themselves are not even happy with the e-levy in the first place.
But first of all, nobody is happy paying tax. Let us get that one straight. So to the extent that we continue to preach or drum into the ears of people that, Ghanaians are not happy paying the e-levy, that is a non-starter. Who wants to pay any single tax in this country? Nobody wants to pay a tax, including, look, and the reason why the people of this country are not taking the NDC serious on this matter is that their own past records does not suggest a political party that given the opportunity to rule, this very tax that they are fighting today, they will withdraw it. It wouldn't happen. Why didn't we hear about the communications tax? What didn't they say about it? What didn't they say about the fact that Kufuor was increasing fuel and that when they came to power, they would reduce it? You remember buy 3 get 8 free? When Professor Mills came into power, he just reduced fuel by 3%. Within 2 months, increases by 8%. So the NDC is not sincere. And I was very surprised to hear the former president, who had, in 2015, after the century economic dialogue, come to Ghanaians, into our homes, on television to appeal to our conscience that he's not a wicked person to be imposing taxes on us, but the circumstances at that time demanded that we paid to bring the deficit gap. It's now telling us that e-levy is no good. I mean, what kind of life is this?
But those things led to reasons why some church leaders in this country at the time were calling for the sensible people to come out and speak. Why? It doesn't mean that now all of a sudden what is going on with regards to the introduction of e-levy is a sensible thing to the clergy, to the church leaders.
I'm not too sure during that time. It was the whole Christian Council that decided to hold press conferences and speak about what was happening. You only mentioned Reverend Marty. I'm not too sure you get
the Peace Council, the Christian Council, whatever council, and all those people were up, found their voices criticizing the previous government on economic hardship.
You see, I am not too sure that has not happened in this instance. I've told you that the Catholic Bishop has issued an official communique about the happenings in this country, about the hardship. And I don't remember the last time Ghanaians never experienced hardship.
With their silence on issues that are bordering on the nation for some time now, not one that marks of hypocrisy, that people wouldn't be far from the truth by saying that the church leaders are being hypocritical.
You see, if you say they are hypocritical, what do we expect from them? As statesmen, if they see that things are not going right, they have to take steps to correct them.
That just as you did some time past, do same as it stands now.
And that's what they are doing.
Are the church leaders happy with the current economic indices? How the economy is going as it stands now?
You must not be comparing apples with oranges.
Okay.
See,
what was the situation at the time and what's the situation today?
So, when President Mahama took over in 2013 through to 2016, there was nothing like COVID in this country. Okay. There was no major natural disaster that befell on this country. Yet you were going through Dumso. This is a country where in 2020, we could not mobilize 11.93 billion from as tax revenue. Yet we spent about 14 billion. People were in their rooms, not working, government workers. Not a single employee on the government payroll was made redundant, but all of them were paid. And we have still not experienced the kind of doomsday, the kind of hardships that was unleashed onto us by the NDC. So what do you expect the Christian Council or the Christian Norm to say? Everyone is in this country, we know whatever is happening. It's not rocket science. Look, you were mentioning about press freedom. What has happened? Does it mean press freedom equates to press foolishness? That anybody gets up and say anything, lie, and all in the name of press freedom, the person must go or the person must just apologize? What kind of society do you want to build? Where in the definition of press freedom states that you can just go and insult anybody, lie about somebody, and then go scot-free? So let us put the issues in the right perspective. My brother was talking about we borrowing, and you also re-echoed it that we are borrowing. Now government say we don't want to borrow more. You that is saying we are borrowing. The government say we don't want to borrow more. Let the citizens contribute. Let us move the tax bracket from the less than 2.5 million we have to a little bit above. Because if you consider our debt, the tax to GDP, it's only 11%.
How is it that all of a sudden this e-levy has become, the problem solver for this country? It solves every problem.
Nobody says it solves it. Nobody.
Our great minister says that without the e-levy, farmers will not get fertilizers. Somebody also said, and of course, one member of parliament, Michael Ochribefi, is a brother. He also espoused that argument on this show. I heard him on other platforms saying same, that refusal to pay the e-levy or without the e-levy, free SHS would have to be cancelled. We've heard the finance minister himself, who has said on several accounts that without the e-levy, the country is likely to crash. The economy is likely to crash. So these statements tell you clearly that to government, the e-levy is a big deal, and without that, the country will come to a standstill. Why? How come?
So government will say that because, as we speak, Parliament has adopted sectorial estimates. And these estimates were made having in mind that e-levy would be passed So that taxes that will be generated from the e-levy will go to shore up or, as it were, help in executing some of these sector estimates. Parliamentarians, including the NDC, you have accepted that Ministry of Health, let's give them 3,000 cities. Ministry of Education, let's give them 2,000 cities. Now you come back. Where is the government going to get the money? Government has shown you that I'm going to get it from e-levy, I'm going to get it from port, I'm going to get it from this way. You say no. Though we have adopted the sector estimates, we have passed the appropriation bill. The means to get these monies to finance the various sectors, we will not accept one of it. So how are you going to execute some of these projects in the various sectors?
Let me ask one question. Let me take you back a bit. Let me take you back a bit because you have used the COVID as an excuse.
Yes.
Because this government, suffered COVID-19 and all of that. But we all know that yes, government suffered COVID-19. We are even not out of the ravages of COVID.
Exactly.
But the truth is the government also received a lot of money during COVID and from out of this COVID and all of that. What did you use those monies for?
You see, when people are not working, it means productivity or production is low. And for that matter, no matter the amount of money you receive, you are not likely to, as it were, make the necessary impact. What were we investing in? Foods, sanitizers, vaccines, PPEs. That was what was happening in this country.
Okay.
People were made to sleep without paying electricity bill, water bill. These were all part of the problem. And if we accept that indeed what we went through had never happened to us in this country and it was a novelty, then we would know that indeed the whole that we were created. Can you imagine you losing revenue of 11 billion? And if you expended more than 14 billion, you add it, that's almost 25 billion. How much was given to us?
But government kept complaining that, well, we've lost a lot of money during COVID and all of that. But during COVID, you exceeded your revenue target, according to Ghana Revenue Authority.
Ghana Revenue Service, the target that they gave to themselves, what was the overall target? COVID time. Instead of, say, 25 billion, we are giving ourselves 10 billion, and you achieve it. It doesn't mean the national target, what it ought to be, was achieved. But because of COVID, we reduced our target to fit the situation. So that was nowhere near how much we were supposed to collect or mobilize as a country. And that is why we have a GPO. Have you heard the NDC profess any solution at this stage? Have you heard them?
They said you should cut, government expenditure.
And I've told you that the budget itself says we are cutting down 20%.
I see.
And the interesting
they said the allocation alone made to the office of the president is even too much, and that should be cut.
Do you know that?
They said the president is living a life as an Arabian king,
who is
and that should also be reduced. The NDC.
Sometimes
they said he has chartered flights, all over, and all those things, which
I have listened
on a higher side.
I have listened to the NDC MPs, especially Samuel Kujet. As a parliamentarian, when they are traveling, they go by business class.
Right.
Leadership, by example, if you know you want us to cut our quote according to our sizes.
Yes.
The parliament as a legislative arm of government is part of governance. Why are they not saying that we are starting from our own house? From now to go, when we are traveling, we have an economy class and we will not go by business class. But conveniently, when he's in an economy class and me as a taxpayer, that pays him, I'm traveling, I go by economy class, he says that is okay. Because that one is guaranteed by the Constitution. And the same Constitution also guarantees that the president travels with either a presidential jet or any means appropriate. So you are not cutting down yours and you expect someone to cut this. It is so unfair. Politics is becoming, and I wonder where he's getting his figures from. He just comes in and he bundles around figures.
So what do you have contrary to the figures he put out there? How much did the president spend an hour on the chartered flight?
That is a question that has to be answered by the National Security or the Ministry of Finance. Till the time that it comes out, where did he get his figures from? Who gave him the invoice? Who paid? Has he cited any check or voucher that goes to pay for those jets or presidential travels? You have not seen any of these. These are all political, as it were, propaganda. Throw something in there, let people write on it and make noise. Meanwhile, when you ask them, where is the evidence? They will point you to a website.
I'll come to you. we also go ahead.
So, you see, let us, at the end of the day, if the NDC believes that this e-levy is not good for Ghanaians,
right,
and that it will even make the MPP so much unpopular, what is your worry? At the end of the day, you want to come into government. You want to be you want to form the next government.
Maybe they don't want to wait till MPP gets Ghanaians into that, economic quagmire where they cannot even afford a 3 square meal before they talk about
when they took us through Doomso for 5 good years, we never uttered a word. When we went to Senchi and they were telling them, that was when, go and read the Senchi dialogue, a report. You will care for this country. When the president was being told, together with his Minister of Finance, that look at the deficit. So high, so whatever recommendation you brought, I would accept it. And that was how come immediately they came back from Senchi. They started introducing KIA tax, 1% import levy, 17.5% on special selected imported medicine. Medicines that were not produced in this country, 17.5% were imposed on it, 5% real estate sales. All these things happened after Senchi. And we as a responsible opposition, knowing very well that as a government you needed money to run your activities, we did not utter a word. We did not stampede the president. Now the president says he's happy that people were slapped in parliament. That was what he said. A former president saying you are happy because people were slapped in parliament.
But he feels that this government has also not been fair with the system because you would want to force your way. You would want to have your way every time you go to parliament, forgetting that this time around you don't have 169 members of parliament. You have 137, and there must be some sort of negotiations where government is ignoring the other side of the house and would want to push through forcefully their policies and all of that. What do you expect?
Government is not putting any gun, pointing any gun.
He even pointed out that this government is behaving like a tyranny, No,
that is not true. If it was the case, he would not have the opportunity to speak his mind like that. He expressed himself freely. Everyone, like we are doing here, we come here and express ourselves.
Right.
If we don't go and insult people by heart, if you don't come here and peddle falsehood, that when we are called upon to substantiate, we will not be able to do it. I like you for that. You don't just come here and just throw things about.
Very well.
Just to create panic into the system. And when you are called upon, it's a press freedom. Press freedom does not amount to press foolishness.
Right. Thank you so much. I'll come back to you, which is why I think that you love to patronize this platform because that's for this place we're very decent. Let me come to Elikem. You would want to respond. You were itching to respond to your brother.
Elikem. I feel sorry for the NPP.
Why?
I see his attempt to try to kick the NDC once a while. But find a way to cause a lot of disaffection for his own party because he supports the Allen campaign. And I see what they are doing. They among themselves. So, let me talk all the gibberish.
But there's fashion in the NDC also.
Yeah, let me see that, So I see that deliberate act. It's just that I feel that fair play allows that you play the game well.
Okay.
But this deliberate act of making it look like the NPP's position is what he is espousing, I see it to be more of an Allen position and all that. I wouldn't say it will inure to our advantage and we should keep mute over that. Because see, throwing tantrums and screaming and all that is not the solution. He was here, and I'm surprised the gentleman of his kind would say, let the NDC profess just one solution. When he gave him one solution, he left his mouth gaping. He did it. We told you, we have been telling you to cut on expenditure.
But he said they are cutting on expenditure.
I read here for you, with him in particular, and I can read it here again. There's no particular place where you can take or touch that 20%. Where exactly? Started where? Where would you
I'll come to you so I respond to that. I'll come to you. Okay, go ahead.
At the slightest thing, you said no COVID. There was no COVID at your time. COVID has made you a beneficiary of billions of dollars that you have mismanaged. And you see, when we were talking about, you were talking about the fact that a black one or other people are traveling business and therefore, you see such irresponsible comments. Because you, the executive,
was a black one responsible by saying that the president traveled in a chartered flight and
yes,
that cost Ghana
is a black one responsible for his travels? Who approves budgetary allocations within the legislature?
Right.
Was it not your government that proposed the budget and even decided to cut the legislature's allocation? It doesn't matter.
But yes,
who presented the budget?
But who approves for the executive?
That is why they are refusing to approve something.
I'll come back to you so that you respond. I'll give you the time.
You now feel that because you are doing so, lead by example. Who is to lead by example? The legislature or actually the executive? As we speak, the president is on a very frivolous or serious expenditure budget out there flying in that jet as we are talking. A country that is complaining that we don't have money, that I outlined to you, NABCO trainings that went on even demonstrations
today they demonstrated,
amongst other things. And you think they're just screaming and saying that you want to equate to call the NDC that in the past this happened. I don't know why this mediocrity crept in the NPP. Suddenly people who thought they called themselves competent apostles now are so confident and content with telling you that, oh, but you were this in the past. If it was good, then why did you even talk against it in the past? You get my point? See where we are. Petrol price has gone up by 110% since you took over office. This is what we are talking about. The dollar is now hitting the 7. The pound
that's 6.6, I guess.
The pound has actually crossed the 8. So you are talking about what? Breaking the 8. Here we are today. Embarrassingly, nothing is working. A vice president who was as loud as anything all over everywhere, all of a sudden is not ready to talk about anything that has got to do with e-levy. But he will talk everything, e-passport, e-this, e-travel, e-this and that. But we will not talk about e-levy. Does it even make sense? And when we are talking about these things that are real matters, let me tell you one thing that he said. And I'm saying this again. The group of Christian leaders who are trying to negotiate this on behalf of government are hypocrites. I am saying this not because I'm not a believer in the church. I am a congregant myself. I am a congregant myself.
But you cannot use such a harsh word on the church.
And on the church leaders. It's not on the church. It's
on the leaders.
Who appointed them to even do that in the first place?
I see.
In what capacity? When things were going wrong, when the president was leading his luxurious life, which he continues to do, have they been bold enough to tell them, Mr. President, your flight alone is costing so much. Can you cut down that?
You may not have,
Once we don't have it, then it means
you don't know what they said.
That is why President Mahama, as a statesman, made sure that he met them, and you saw the conversation, and we heard what happened there.
Right.
So President Nanado is so unique and different that meeting must be in close cameras, so we cannot see and know what happened. You get my point? So you cannot decide to be doing things this way. Were they able to tell you that, look, you even have a lady in waiting? What does that lady do at all? We are wasting the public purse. And then you want to tell us that we don't have money, if not the economy will crash. And these same people who will tell you the economy is good, it's buoyant, it's not working. Your finance minister is crying and telling you that it will crash. So you just don't know. You don't know who is actually speaking the truth. Everybody just wants to throw words about. And instead of them being humble enough when even they get the platforms like this, they rather want to be screaming, oh, we are the best, the MPP and the NDC. This is not an MPP and NDC matter. This is you, the MPP, the government, and Ghanaians. It is Ghanaians. If you think that you have the thing and it is right and it can be done, go ahead and do it and let's see. So when you are screaming, saying that even you have given approval to the secretariat, whatever, but for this you say you will not agree. That is how the law says it should be done. That is why it is done that way. If it was possible, just go ahead. You listen to Honorable Chairman a time ago saying that technically it has been passed. It has been passed. Go ahead and let's see. So what are you doing wasting our time here? You call yourself the apostles with the intelligent brains. So what exactly are you doing? Go ahead and implement it and let's see. What is stopping you? So you get my point.
So Elikem, are you suggesting that because some time ago or because certain things happened and then the church leaders didn't talk,
they have looked on for too long?
This time around, they should also be quiet.
You see, they have failed
we
themselves.
Can't build a country with that statement.
They have failed themselves and failed us because they failed to ride on the moral fiber when it mattered most. This country wouldn't have gotten here if they were vociferous enough. If they were blunt, objective, and fair enough, if they were bold enough and fearless enough to speak truth to President Nanado and his regime right from the word go. When they were making the flamboyant promises amongst other things, today they are saying that nobody wants to pay tax. I'm sorry, that is a lazy man's speech. Everybody wants to pay tax, but the person must see evidence of what that tax is being used for. I gave an example. Go to Australia, they are paying tax of 23%. People are paying it willingly and freely. So if you are even here thinking that people don't want to pay tax, already you have defeated yourself in an attempt to want to rake in revenue because you even hold a negative, a retrogressive mindset that people don't even want to pay tax. You must hold the belief that people want to pay tax, but they are not ready to pay tax to a president who will be flying a luxurious jet, who wants to even pay his wife for doing absolutely nothing for this country. Let us face facts.
Elikem, do you believe that the youth of this country, need?
Maybe we are not even angry enough.
Do you believe that the good people of this country would need better roads and all of that.
We need better roads.
The government has said that the e-levy is coming to take care of.
And we saw a minister of road for the cessation of collection of road tolls. We haven't addressed that. The Christian groups that went to President Mahama never said that, or they never met Nanado and told him that your son or your relative or your family, Akunta or whatever it is, because the guy is even a family member, everybody within the MPP is scared to even talk about it. What sense does it make for you to call for cessation of road tolls? Meanwhile, the petrol price that has gone up, there are some funds, some elements there that are related to the road. So why do we call for cancellation of road tolls and want to turn it into urinals or police checkpoints? Police checkpoints to now cause more traffic? So where are the competent men that they preached about? The point we are just making is this. Look, whether you like it or not, and you see, surprisingly, till date, we are in our 6th year. You are still here talking about doom. So talking about when they ask you what exactly you did, you can't even tell what you did. What generational capacity have you added to our mix? You can't even tell.
They told you that it was a financial problem.
It was a financial problem,
and they have taken care of it.
When we were procuring, what was our peak demand and what was the peak supply we had at the time? So you see, it is easy to just talk these things. At a point in time, they even said we had excess. Does it even make sense? Justice, that you are saying we have excess electricity. Meanwhile, electricity penetration or coverage in Ghana is about 85%. So what is stopping you from extending electricity to the other parts of the country to make sure everybody gets electricity? Why are you not even exporting it? So you see the way they think and the way they make things. But if you are not smart enough to see through, then you'll be like, oh, these guys are making sense. They are. It's true. Our electricity penetration is still at 85 or 88 or so since they came to power. And look at all the list of debts I have outlined for you. You think 6 billion can solve that? Absolutely nowhere near. The fact of the matter is that this is a regime that is adamant, very arrogant, and refusing to listen to good sense. Cut down on your expenditure. Let's look at where to plug the loopholes. Those tax exemptions you have been giving to families and friends, cut them. There are ways you can actually stop them. You hear them, let the NDC profess just one. Oh, now you need just one from the NDC? When we have been saying it long ago from when you were appointing 125 useless appointees? That didn't matter. Did
you say useless?
Very useless. Let's be very frank with ourselves. What was the product? What was the result of the 125 appointments that he made? Is it not what has led us here? Then at the listing they will be telling you COVID-19. But for COVID-19, you wouldn't have gotten the billions you have gotten. When you even lied to Ghanaians that you only got 200 million from the IMF until the country director, Frank Laporte, had to come out to say that we're giving you 435 million. Right. And then we gave you another 135 million for the procurement of vaccines. So what are we talking about? Let us get serious. The MPP has become a failure. At their own front, they are divided. Let me tell you, Justice, if we are not careful as a people watching today or listening today, we are heading to a deeper abyss. The point is this. What is the petrol price today? 7.99. In the next year, or probably in the next couple of months, it will still be going up.
Right. We
may even have the money to want to buy fuel. You won't even get it. Government itself is broke and doesn't have the money to even get the fuel down here. Can you imagine what that would be? That would be very chaotic. And that is what we are leading to. And so when we are beginning to stop, you see when President Mahama speaks, he speaks with wisdom. He takes his time, not speaking some funny accent to sound like, yes, because I am this or I speak this way. He speaks with wisdom and as a statesman. Have you ever seen or heard President Mahama even comment on fuel prices before? He doesn't do this petty politics.
Right.
This petty politics where everybody, including the then opposition leader, Nanado, and his running mate, were throwing words about. If you go back to their Twitter handles, you see how petty and childish they were in throwing up everything just for vote, just for power. Now they have gotten it. This is where we are. We are in an abyss, and we must speak the truth to it. Because, look, you are paying school fees if you are going to school. You are being paid as a worker as you work. I am also working to get to earn a living. And if all these things are not going on well and you think that you have to pretend and say that this is NDC MPP, this is not NDC MPP. This is MPP, or this is the government versus the people.
Right.
And we as the people must stand up and begin to speak truth to them. The arrogance with which they are still in their failure is actually surprising.
Okay. Thank you so much, Elikem. Thank you so much for your submission. Sarah, please give me 10 minutes. I think I gave Elikem as much as that for so that just give me 10. Just give me 10 so that Mr. Osu would also respond appropriately, I think I need to be fair. Mr. Also, you have 10 minutes for us to go.
So the issues still remain. LKM calling these pastors hypocrites.
Okay.
That's not befitting as someone who claims to be a Christian. Because if for nothing at all, these pastors shapes.
But if you are a hypocrite, you are a hypocrite.
They have not done anything that suggests so.
They've been quiet.
If someone is quiet, if there are no issues to speak about, why would you say because someone is not speaking or
So
talking?
to you there were no issues. To me there were issues. That's right.
Because
I
they did
think
not talk.
that's clear. Okay.
So
But don't forget, Mr. also has his opinion.
Exactly.
So allow him to express.
I disagree with you
Okay.
that you are calling them hypocrites.
Right.
And it shouldn't come from you.
Without
Okay.
apology.
The e-levy we are talking about.
Right.
Government says it will make close to 6 to 7 billion. Now, we are not saying that it's going to solve all our problems. We have not said so. What we have said is that the way things are going, if you went into the international market to borrow by way of floating bonds, the interest rate alone on it will be too high for the country.
Okay.
And that whatever tax revenue we would mobilize locally, we will use more than what we are doing currently to go and service our debt. Therefore, we have to look within and reduce the amount of borrowing. Now, we have estimated clearly that 20% of all estimates across board will be cut in this 2022 budget, which has been approved by the minority. Nobody has raised any issue that we are not cutting down expenditure. Probably where it is left to cut deeper is Parliament, where the MPs travel.
But not the presidency.
President, how many times does he travel? President, how many times? We have 275 MPs. If all of them are traveling,
How many staffers
This
do we
10
have?
days travel alone will cost us millions.
you have no evidence to that.
Right.
You have no evidence to that.
Right. Okay. But also, how many presidential staffers do we have?
You see,
You won't have
when we say
How many ministries do we have under the presidency? How much money have we allocated or apportioned for the
You
presidency
see,
in the budget?
when we say the presidency, it's not about the president alone. There are a lot of agencies that come under the presidency.
So I asked that question, that how many ministries, how many agencies do we have under the presidency?
I won't be able to give you offer.
Exactly. So the question is, but without giving that, I'm sure you know the amount of money that has been apportioned for
Exactly.
the presidency in the budget.
Yes.
Is that not too much?
It is not, because you see, we have, that's why I'm saying that if we say it is too much, the executive budget is approved by the legislature. Is that not so? So if we are saying it is too much, it means that the parliamentarians that you and I have voted to go and do due diligence for us did not do a good job. It's just like coming to sit here and telling us that we have borrowed too much. When you know that every single law passes through Parliament and parliamentarians are the one that scrutinizes it and then approves it.
But the loans, of course, the borrowings you are accusing the previous government of, they were all approved by Parliament.
Exactly.
So why were you on the rooftops shouting during the previous government's time that they were borrowing too much? And when you had your members of Parliament at the time in there also approving such loans or such monies that were borrowed?
So we approved loans for them and yet slept in darkness for 5 good years.
I see.
You have approved loans for us and you are in light for 6 good years. Is that not a clear distinction? We approved loans for you, yet secondary school students did not go to school free. You approved loan for us, secondary school students are going to school free.
Okay.
Is that not a difference? You approved loan for us, we have 110 one district, one factories. We approved loan for you, we did not have that.
Don't forget that you are not financing the free SHS from the borrowing.
No, you see, when we say we are financing, and don't forget it's tax revenue. The same tax revenue that goes to finance some of these facilities. So when the loans come, sometimes we chip some there before tax revenue comes to correct it.
What about the oil fund? Because we are told that you are funding the free SHS from the oil fund.
That's what I'm saying, that I was just giving you analogy. The difference between the MPP and the NDC, which is a clear distinction. One has ensured that there was all day light. One ensured that there was all day darkness. How can you compare these two? One ensured that interest rate that was hovering around 36% is now hovering around 20-22%. How can you compare these two? When we have been given a lot of population, look at the population numbers. We are dealing with 30.8 people. How was our population during their reign? And how many people were contributing to the tax bracket? So they shouldn't come and sit there and create the impression that if they were in this situation, they would have done anything better. In fact, our life would have been worse. And I say so because where the country had not gone into hardship, we have not experienced the COVID. Look at what they took us through. And that was what reflected in the 2016 elections.
But we had a budget deficit even before the COVID-19, and you know.
No, it wasn't. It was hovering around 8%, 6%. But if you sit in a country where in a single year you lose tax revenue of 11.93 billion and spend 14 billion in excess, that is almost 24 billion. So if you spend 24 billion, you have created now how much was given to us by the IMF and the World Bank? You are saying 3 billion. Convert that 3 billion and see the deficit. You need to plug that deficit hole. And you can only finance deficit by either going to borrow. With borrowing, you will still service with tax. Look, they embarked on a demonstration. What was the name they gave to the demonstration? Is it not Yentia? And if they understood the key language, that's why the Ghanaians are even mad at the NDC. That it means you have the money, but you won't pay. That was if you have said Yen to Mintia, the people would have taken you serious. But if you go and tell the Ghanaian people that Yentia, it means we have the money in our pocket.
But if it doesn't make sense,
because we are the NDC, we won't pay.
I may have the money. If it doesn't make sense, I won't pay.
Because we are not seeing what.
Oh, so you have the money, you have
Yes.
So you see,
But they won't pay.
so you see what good governance does.
The
The SPP has managed to get monies into the pockets of Ghanaians, including the NDC. And he was talking about this e-levy is about the MPP and the Ghanaians. Don't forget that MPP, we are also Ghanaians. Are you not Ghanaians?
You are.
So don't create the impression that it's the only NDC that is fighting for the people of this
Some
country.
section of Ghanaians.
And even what has been the research, the survey that they have sought to even buttress their point. That
But how come a party in opposition that promised, or a party that promised in opposition to change the economy from taxation to production, is now taxing Ghanaians?
do you know how we came about the 110 one district, one factories? Because of policy change, because of tax incentives to these companies. Government gives incentives. When we came, we have scrapped 11 taxes, and we have mentioned over a year. Taxes that were brought into being by the NDC, we took them off because we realized that it was not necessary. How can you impose 17.5% VAT on airline tickets? How are you going to promote the local industry, the local aviation industry? Why do you impose 17.5% on specially imported medicine? Medicine that we didn't have in this country. How are you not going to aid Ghanaians dying in the
You
morning?
have 2 minutes more.
Why do you impose 5% real estate sales?
Right.
Knowing very well that we had issues with our real estate sector. How are you going to promote that sector? So you see, the NDC is not sincere to itself. And the Ghanaian does not, as it were, believe in what they are saying. Right. All that they are doing is that they want Ghanaians to give them the mandate, and so that they will come back and tell us that, oh, we didn't know that this was the whole that they had created. This was the mess. Give us a chance to be able to, as it were, govern. But the Ghanaian is wide awake. The Ghanaian is never going to make that mistake.
Right.
And the Ghanaian will make sure that, just like they did just 2 years ago, and they are forgetting about themselves. Although we had elections about 10 years ago, it was just 2 years ago that the Ghanaian gave us an overwhelming victory. And the Ghanaians,
You don't understand.
500,000. You won an election with 49,000.
A decrease from your previous.
It doesn't matter. 500,000.
Right.
You need a Kumasi Sports Stadium. No, Accra Sports Stadium, Kumasi Sports Stadium, Tamale Sports Stadium, Pimples, all combined.
Let's see how it goes in 2024. Thank you so much, Mr. Also, for coming. I'm so grateful. But in 2024, who are you presenting?
No. I mean, it's going to be Alan John Kojo Chamanti. There is no doubt about that. Right. And that is why they are making a fundamental mistake.
Right.
I don't know how they are campaigning, and they are too sure.
That is that's coming. Right. Thank you so much.
Let's say good evening to one Don Volta, who is a cybersecurity engineer at the Bank of England.
Okay.
He's watching and he wants me to say hello.
Right, Don Volta, how are you doing? I mean, thank you so much. And also, Mabel Sayram Gasu, you were also watching. I mean, she sent in I think she commented on Facebook, but unfortunately my phone is off, so I'll be unable to read that message. Kindly forgive me. This is what time will allow us on the program. Make a time with us, same time next week. We'll come here on Monday. My name is Justice Appiah, and the show has been hot news. Goodbye.